Is it possible? Now listen within yourself and be honest with me. Is it possible that you have been seeking God for years and somehow feel farther away than when you began? Is it possible that prayer grew heavy? Meditation turned into a clock to be watched, and with every new book, every new method, there came a little more tension in the shoulders and a little more secret guilt that you still do not have it. Yes, yes, it is possible. And more than possible, it is common among those most sincere, most devoted, most determined to find the presence. We are not scolding sincerity. No, we are discovering why sincerity has been yoked to fatigue. Now let us accept this statement for a minute. Spiritual tiredness is not the proof that you are unworthy. It is very often the evidence that you were taught to build a ladder to heaven when heaven was never up there to be climbed. You were trained into self-effort, and self-effort, dressed up in holy phrases, is still self-effort. A human being can't help that, not at first. A human being thinks in terms of doing, adding, achieving, and so seeking quietly becomes getting. Getting an experience, getting peace, getting a sign, getting certainty. And each time we fail to get, the mind says, try harder. And trying harder feels pious. It feels sacrificial. It looks like devotion. But it is only the human mind continuing its old business under a stained glass light. Acquisition. Now you and I, we who are sitting here, appear as ordinary people. We get dressed, we pay bills, we show up at jobs, we smile at neighbors. Outwardly, we are indistinguishable from the next person on the bus. Yet inwardly, many of us have been wrestling with a burden that was never ours to pick up. The imagined burden of making God happen. Do you hear that? Making God happen. As if infinity awaits your grim determination to begin to be infinite. Now tell me, what could an infinite presence ever need of your strain? Nothing. Nothing. Your strain is not the price of admission. More often, it is the very resistance that blocks the door the moment it swings open. So then, is all seeking wrong? No, no, do not swing to the other extreme. There is a seeking that is really a quiet turning, an unveiling, a listening without agenda. But the seeking that tightens the brow, that counts minutes, that bargains for results, this is not seeking at all. It is striving. And striving, though it wears a halo in religious circles, is merely the old impulse to get, to secure, to control. All right, hold this one thought today and do not let it go. If your search has left you weary, it is not because God is far. It is because self-effort has moved into the driver's seat and called itself holy. We will come to the missing step, yes, we will. But for this hour, let us simply see it. Seeking that strains is not spiritual. It is personal will in prayer clothes. The remedy is not another technique layered on top. It is a stopping, an ending of the personal managing. Another word for that ending is yielding. We will find it together. For now, let the burden drop 1 inch. 1 inch. And notice that the presence was here before you tried. Now let us bring this into the light and look at it without flinching. Tell me, what could an infinite God ever need from your strain? More sweat? More intensity? A more perfect posture? A stricter diet? A longer vigil? Nothing. Nothing. If God is infinite presence, then what you add to infinity does not make it more infinite. and what you subtract from it does not make it less. Infinity is not improved by your frown, nor delayed by your yawn. All right, accept that for a minute and watch what happens inside. The shoulders loosen, yes? Because some part of you knows this is not my opinion, it is law. God is the source of your being and the infinity of your being. Already. Now, of course, right on schedule, comes the protest that I have heard in every hall, every living room, every quiet corner where this truth has been spoken. But I don't know enough. I'm not spiritual enough. I can't concentrate. My mind wanders. I forget the words. That's not true. There isn't anybody within range of my voice who does not know at least one statement of truth. And one statement of truth contains all truth. I and the Father are one. All that the Father hath is mine. Seek not what ye shall eat. Your Father knoweth. One glimpse of that lived, not collected, not admired on the wall, but lived, opens the window and the air comes in. Not because you worked up the wind, but because you stopped nailing the window shut. Now see the hidden bargain that has been running the show. We try so that God will respond. We strain so that presence will appear. We perform so that grace will be earned. That is humanness, all getting, even when it bows its head. It is as if we had said to the ocean, "If I splash hard enough, perhaps you will become water." No. The splashing neither makes the sea nor brings it nearer. It only tires the swimmer who is already in it. God is not an effect of your effort. God is not a mood you achieve on a good day. God is not a result, not a reward. God is the life of you, the mind of you, the source and substance of you, functioning whether you acknowledge it or not. So the question changes. If God is present, and God is, then the issue is not, how do I reach God, but what in me is resisting what is already here? What habit of bargaining? What cherished fear? What demand that the infinite prove itself by arranging my outer picture just so before I will yield? Don't condemn yourself for finding such resistance. A human being can't help that, not at first. Only see it and call it by its right name. It is the strain that pretends to be the price of access, while in fact, it is the refusal. Now, quietly, inwardly, make this consent. I release personal managing. I will not make a deal with omnipresence. I will sit, I will listen, I will let be. And in that letting you will feel, not an achievement, not a fireworks display, but the simple sufficiency of what has never been absent. That is the beginning of rest and the end of weariness. Now watch with me how the mind performs its clever little turn. It begins as seeking, an honest turning, a listening, a looking to the invisible. And without a trumpet blast, without a sign on the door, it has become getting. Getting an answered prayer. Getting an experience. Getting a sign that I am not abandoned. Getting relief from fear. Getting relief from pain. Getting one mystical moment to frame and hang. And if we are very honest, getting a little proof that we belong in the circle of those who have it. That's the turn. That's the shift. Prayer turns into a contest, and spirituality becomes a quiet tournament with scorecards kept in secret notebooks. How do you know it has happened? You begin to compare. Compare your meditation to hers, your peace to his, your outer circumstances this year to last. You begin to hunt techniques. One more method, one more mantra, one more posture, one more breathing count. You begin to collect teachings the way a shopkeeper collects inventory. Shelves loaded, ledgers full, back room overflowing. You begin to chase feelings, warmth in the chest, a tingling in the hands, a hush that you can time on the clock. Then you measure progress and fear setbacks. I was doing so well, and then I slipped. You mark red-letter days and black-letter days and conclude God must have moved when, in fact, only your barometer needle danced. Now do not accuse your sincerity. A human being can't help that. A human being, conditioned from birth to earn, to aim, to acquire, naturally drags that old habit into the temple and sets up shop. We do it in business, competing for market, for clients, for a larger slice of the pie. And then we come to prayer and repeat it with more delicate language. We compete for reassurance, for demonstration, for the finest testimony on Wednesday night. It is the same root. It is the belief that supply is out there, money out there, opportunity out there, God out there. And if we do not strive, someone else will get there first. All right. Now let us accept this as a description, not a condemnation. Why does it exhaust? Because getting has no finish line. The very premise insists that what you need is not where you are. It is somewhere else, in someone else, after something else, behind the next practice, under the next book jacket, at the end of the 49th day when 48 would not do. So you run. And because you are sincere, you run harder. And because you love God, you run with tears. And because you are devout, you strap weights to your ankles and call them disciplines, imagining the prize will be nobler for the bruises. But listen, humanness, all getting, can only breed more of itself. Competition in commerce, competition in religion, same seed, same harvest. Tension, fear of loss, secret envy, the fragile elation of a win that must be defended tomorrow. There isn't anybody within range of my voice who hasn't tasted that cycle. And there isn't anybody within range of my voice who must remain in it. The issue is not that you have been wrong. The issue is that the compass was set 1 degree off. Getting believes supply is elsewhere, therefore effort must be endless. Seeking that is yielding will discover supply already here. Therefore, effort may rest. Hold this, then. When seeking turns into getting, it becomes endless effort, and endless effort becomes exhaustion. Say it. See it. You do not need a new bag of tricks. You need the quiet courage to lay down the scoreboard. In the moment you do, you will notice what was here before the race began. The very presence you were attempting to win by running. Now you come to a law. Do not treat it as opinion. Accept it as law and watch the inward weather change. There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. Every line on the film is drawn by the light that passes through the lens. Every fact of your day, your peace, your fear, your generosity, your tightness, registers from the state within. Therefore God, who is the very life and light of consciousness, is not a distant effect to be produced by your effort. God is not a mood, not a temperature you heat up with friction. God is the cause, the substance, the withinness. When the within is cleared of grasping, the outer reads differently because the light is unblocked. Now look at the tactic we have been using and see why it cannot work. We try to adjust effects. We arrange the room. We time the sit. We coach the breath. We chase a sweet feeling. We whisper affirmations at the problem as if volume and repetition could bully the picture into kindness. We hold the jaw in a holy position and call it peace. We light the incense, change the playlist, and bargain with the infinite. If I can keep this hush for 20 minutes, will you change that bill, that body, that boss? Do you see? Prayer has become leverage. The invisible is treated as a handle to move the visible. And when the picture does not obey on our schedule, we blame ourselves. Not enough faith, not enough practice, not enough spirituality. So we push again, longer, harder, stricter, till even devotion tastes like chalk. All right, tell me, can a photograph repair the sun by ironing the print? No, no. Can you polish the mirror by scrubbing the face you see in it? No. The face changes when the mirror is cleared. The print improves when the light is right. So it is with this life of ours. Effort that aims at effects only rearranges shadows. You can fan the surface of a pond all day and never see the bottom. You see the bottom when you stop stirring. The God experience you have been trying to induce is not an event you force. It is recognition, natural, lawful recognition, that dawns when mental grasping grows quiet. I and the Father are one was not offered as a goalpost, but as a fact. When the mind consents to that fact, when the bargaining and the staging fall away, presence is evident as what has been here all along. Therefore, the remedy cannot be more mental pushing. It cannot be cleverer affirmations, or a fiercer schedule, or a subtler posture. The remedy is the surrender of pushing, the end of personal managing. Yielding, remember that word, yielding lets consciousness become transparent so that the cause shines through untouched. Then, without manipulation, right effects appear as they must under law. Peace shows because the fear that demanded a sign has been dismissed. Guidance is heard because the noise of our plans has been lowered. Supply is evident because the belief in outside sources has relaxed. Do not try to edit the picture. Consent to the light. Not passivity, no, we will speak of that next, but the deliberate ending of the strain that pretended to produce God while only obscuring God. Sit a moment, even here, and drop the lever. Let be. In that small ceasing, you will feel the axis move from effect to cause, from racing to resting, from getting to giving way, and you will know why effort can never usher you into presence. Presence is the cause that ends effort. Now let us say it plain, because there must be no fog around this point. Yielding is the deliberate end of personal managing. It is the release of the private sense of being the doer, the fixer, the spiritual achiever. It is not a mood, it is a decision. The decision to stop running your life on the assumption that you are separate from your source, responsible to manufacture light, responsible to engineer grace. You lay down the tools you fashioned to build a bridge to God, and you discover the ground under your feet was already God. That is yielding. But isn't that laziness? No. No. That is the first fear of the human mind, trained to believe that only strain proves sincerity. Yielding is not resignation to circumstances, not giving up on life, not neglect of duty. It is giving up the illusion of separateness that makes circumstances tyrants. It is ceasing to wrestle the river and discovering you are in the current of a law that carries you. Work will still be done. Appointments will still be kept. But the worker will be God expressing, not a frightened self trying to become spiritual by performance. Now correct this too. You do not yield to disease. No, no. You do not yield to lack. No. You do not yield to evil, to injustice, to the picture on the screen. You yield to God. You yield to truth. You yield to presence. Be still and know that I am God. That is a direction to yield to the I, not to the disturbance. When the mind tightens around a pain, an invoice, a headline, that is the moment. Do not marshal arguments. Do not indict yourself. Do not bargain with the picture. Turn within and consent. Father, thou seest. I rest in thee. That is the inner act. Not many words, not a contest of vocabulary. A consent, quiet, honest, definite. In that consent, you are not commanding outcomes. You are recognizing cause. All right, what follows? Fireworks? Not usually. Do not make a sign your idol. Often the first evidence is quietness, the hush that is not apathy, but sufficiency. An unclenching inside. The appetite to manage everything begins to thin. The timetable you were clutching loosens. Guidance is heard in the silence between thoughts, and action, when it comes, is clean and unhurried. The bills get paid, the phone call is made, the apology is offered, the design is sketched, but without that background growl of, I must make this work. Greater is he that is within you than he that is in the world. In the degree of your yielding, that greater is felt. And listen, because this saves months of disappointment. Yielding does not aim at a result, it reveals a relationship. I and the Father are one, moves from a framed sentence to a lived axis. In that oneness, effects arrange by law, not by your pressure. Some pictures change swiftly, some ripen in their season. But the strain that was killing you does not survive the consent. Each time you notice the old push rising, stop, just there, and say it again without drama. Father, thou seest, I rest in thee. Not as magic, as truth. We are not producing God, we are yielding to God. And in that yielding, divine functioning is recognized, and recognized, it proceeds. Now the mind will come in on cue and say, all right, I see about yielding, but surely I need more. More teaching, more methods, more steps, more words, more books. That's not true. That's not true. Truth cannot be multiplied, and it cannot be divided. Why? Truth is one. One ray of the sun is not less sun. One drop of ocean is not less ocean. One statement of truth, lived, not admired, contains all truth. There isn't anybody within range of my voice who does not already know one such statement. I and the Father are one. Or if you like the other wording, God is the source of my being and the infinity of my being. Either one. One is enough. Now do not turn that statement into a tool for getting. Do not paste it on the forehead of a problem as a charm. Use it as consent, as the pivot that turns you from strain to recognition. The moment you feel the old tightening, at the desk, in the market, in front of a screen, stop just there. Do not gather more steps. Do not consult the pile of notes. Turn inwardly and place your weight on one truth. I and the Father are one. Then be silent. Not a chant to force results, a stepping out of the storm into the quiet room. You are not pushing the wind. You are closing the window that was rattling. You are not summoning God. You are recognizing cause.
But won't I need to say it many times?
Yes. Yes. Perhaps many times a day. Not because God is distant, not for a second, but because a human mind is habitual. A human being can't help that, not at first. The old reflex to grasp, to calculate, to get, will reach for the wheel. So each time you notice it, you return. The same truth, the same consent, the same quiet. And each return is not failure, it is practice. The only necessary thing is the willingness to practice it. All right, don't forget this. You are not piling truths like bricks to build a tower to heaven. You are letting one truth become your floor, your resting place. When it is your floor, you do not strain to remember it. You stand on it without thinking, and you walk from it into the next conversation, the next email, the next errand. And in that standing, law operates. Effects arrange, not by your hurry, but by the withinness you have consented to. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine, begins to be felt as sufficiency, as guidance, as the naturalness of right action without the rustle of self-importance. Do not collect. Embody. Take your one truth and live with it this hour. When the habit rises, return. When the fear blinks, return. When the thought says, add another, say, no, no, and return. One truth is enough when it is your truth lived, and lived, it becomes your rest. Now come with me to the point where the shoulders truly drop. If God is the source of your being and the infinity of your being, now accept that for a minute. Then supply is not outside to be hunted, not waiting to be earned, not dependent on another person's mood or the market's swing. God is my supply. My supply is infinite. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. This is not a promise stapled to tomorrow. This is law, functioning whether or not the human mind approves. At once the mind raises its familiar parade. But the bill is due Friday. The child needs tuition. The report will be read by the board. The doctor's note has numbers on it. My friend hasn't called back. The decision about next year must be made. Yes, yes. Those pictures are the very ones that tempt us back into getting and grasping, into reaching out with mental hands to drag security into place. Stop, just there. Do not bargain with the picture, and do not argue with the law. Turn within and make a quiet consent. Father, Thou art the substance of this day. Then be still long enough to let the truth outrun the fear. Serene waiting is not delay. It is trust in law. Think of the orchard. No one tugs on branches to force sweetness. The earth knows, the sap knows, the sun knows. So it is with consciousness. When neediness drops, wisdom rises. When fear relaxes, right activity appears. When grasping ends, guidance is heard. You will find not a thunderclap, but a rightness that moves you to the phone at the exact hour, that draws the email out of you without strain, that settles the tongue when silence is wealth and loosens it when honesty is wealth. My own shall come to me does not mean passivity. It means I no longer insult the law by imagining my clutching improves it. All right, bring it to Tuesday morning. You open the bank page and the figures look smaller than your hope. Is supply missing? No. No. What is missing is recognition. Close the screen, not in denial, but to withdraw permission from the fear. All that the Father hath is mine. Sit 2 minutes with that, not as a lever, as truth. Let the inner weather clear. Watch how, in that clearness, a simple next step stands up without agitation. A conversation, a consolidation, an idea you have been brushing away as too humble. A generosity that looks impossible to the budget but opens the flow. To him that hath shall be given is practical. When you acknowledge the withinness, more appears outwardly in forms you can use. Now look at 2 lives. One is the competitive seeker, always chasing the next experience, the next proof, tightening hands around every coin and compliment because lack is imagined as the climate. The other is the yielded soul, who knows, since I am one with my source, nothing can be added to me and nothing can be taken from me. Therefore, I cast my bread upon the waters, time given, skill shared, money released, forgiveness extended, not to get, but because I cannot be diminished by giving. And see the harvest. In the first life, fatigue and fragile highs. In the second, quiet sufficiency and steady right action. The chase ends not because the world changes first, but because presence is recognized as the substance of life. Then your own, by law, comes to you, on time, in order, without the scorch of strain. Now you ask, and rightly, how will I know that I have truly yielded? Not by a new feeling to brag about, not by a vision writ large across the sky. You will know because the axis of your heart turns. It turns from, how can God help me, to, how can God love through me? That is the sign. That is the quiet, unmistakable sign. You stop trying to use God as a power for getting, and you begin, without announcement, without trumpet, to be a place through which the presence gives. Yes, yes. The very question changes, and with the question, the day. What does it look like on Monday morning? It looks like forgiveness, offered at the very memory that used to tighten your jaw. It looks like honesty in business, never a false representation, never a small shade on the invoice to gain a fraction more, never the fear that if you tell the truth, you will lose the client. It looks like patience at home, the answer half a tone softer, the interruption received as an opportunity to serve rather than a theft from your time. It looks like quiet service, picking up what isn't yours, doing what no one will applaud, arranging the chair, washing the cup, leaving a space better than you found it. It looks like a small act of generosity, a penny, a nickel, a dime, released with no calculation and no display, because you cannot be diminished by giving. Left hand not knowing what the right hand does, you cast your bread upon the waters and move on. Light. Now tell me why this matters. Because getting is anxious, giving is free. Getting is always afraid of loss, afraid that if I forgive, I forfeit justice. If I tell the truth, I lose the deal. If I give, my little pile will shrink. Giving knows source is infinite. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine, so there is nothing to defend and nothing to hoard. In that knowing, the hand opens, and miracle of law, nothing essential escapes. To him that hath shall be given. Not because you have earned a bonus, but because consciousness recognized its source, and therefore manifests sufficiency. Now let us correct a very subtle misuse of the holy. Prayer employed to secure advantage over another is still competition dressed in robes. God, give me this client instead of her. God, move that contract to my desk. God, make me win this point. No, no. That is the old business of getting, imported into the temple, and it will keep you tired because it keeps you in lack consciousness. There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. If we drag competition into prayer, we must externalize competition. Winners today, losers tomorrow, and fear every day. Yielding ends competition because it ends the inner sense of lack. The prayer of a yielded heart sounds like this: Father, let thy love go forth as fairness, as order, as sufficiency for all concerned. Use me. Show me how to be transparency for thy giving. And what follows? Sometimes you receive the work. Sometimes you bless another to it and find, without strain, that your own appears by another door. In either case, the strain is gone, and peace has replaced the bargain. All right, don't forget this. When giving begins to flow as the natural language of your day, forgiveness, honesty, patience, quiet service, small coin given without noise, you have evidence. You are no longer using God. God is using you. And the atmosphere changes, not only in your chest, but in your rooms. Conversations cool. Negotiations soften. Families stop fighting over crumbs because someone in the house is living from a bakery. Offices feel safer because one worker has ceased to grasp. Communities breathe because a few have laid down the scoreboard. In that degree, the collective air clears. We are coming now to a larger law, and we will take it up. But see this much. Yielding is not only relief to you, it is a law at work for all who come within range of your presence. Now we come to the larger law I promised you. Yielding is not only relief, it is the end of inner violence that feeds the world's outer conflict. Look closely, and you will see that most effort, as we have been practicing it, carries a concealed fist. Self-attack, condemnation, pressure, fear. We drive ourselves, scold ourselves, make demands on ourselves. And then we wonder why nations drive, scold, and demand at the point of a weapon. There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. The war in the chest writes itself as sharp words at the table, as ruthless deals downtown, and, magnified by numbers, as battlefields. Getting is armed. It believes in scarcity, and scarcity must defend. So the inner order becomes strain or be overtaken. And the strain, like any soldier, learns to shoot. Now listen. Nonviolence is not a tactic. It is a state of consciousness. The yielded life is incapable of hate and fear of externals because it recognizes no power outside God. It refuses to make an enemy out of conditions or people. It does not call disease a devil and then fight it. It yields to God and sees right through the mask. It does not imagine a competitor as a thief. It yields to source and blesses, knowing, my own shall come to me. Christ is a state of consciousness that does not fear or hate externals. In that state, the sword falls from the hand, not as weakness, but because the hand has nothing to defend. Greater is he that is within you than he that is in the world. And when that is lived, the world loses its claws. You know the scripture, Daniel, and in him innocency was found. That's why the lions couldn't. Not because he was strong in muscle or clever in strategy. Innocency, the absence of inner violence, disarmed outer violence. The animals were present. The law was more present. So it is with you. The headlines may roar. The invoice may glare. The insult may sting. But if within you there is no hate to meet hate, no fear to amplify fear, you stand inside a law that operates irrespective of appearances, and the thing that came to devour you finds nothing to feed on. All right, Let us rise a step and see what this means for the collective. Suppose, no theatrics, just honesty. Suppose there were a people anywhere on earth who in the secrecy of their own being settled this: take my life, but I won't take yours. I will not return hate. I will not return fear. I will not return violence, even to save this form. There is a law of God that would stop them dead in their tracks. Yes, yes, not the tracks of every bullet and bayonet in one dramatic hour, but the tracks of the idea that force is effective. Inside of 30, 60, 90 days, the idea would be popping up, in pulpits, in parliaments, in kitchens and barracks, that there is another way to live, and it would not have been preached into the world. It would have been released by law. We here could stop all future wars in the degree that we refuse to fight them first in the privacy of our own chest. Don't pass this by as rhetoric. Law is law. There are no detached outer effects. Take it beyond the slogan. Your private yielding is not small. The moment you stop the inner scolding, a temperature drops in your house. The moment you bless the competitor, a pressure lifts in your market. The moment you refuse the thrill of outrage and turn within, Father, thou seest, I rest in thee. Some tiny piece of the world loses a spark it might have used for fire. And in the accumulation of such moments, the collective picture must tilt toward peace, because the cause has been altered. Begin where you are. Lay down the fist you make against yourself, and you will discover that the hand you offer the world will not strike. That is yielding as law, and that is how inner peace becomes public peace. Now let us do the missing step. Not tomorrow, tonight. Go home. If necessary, sit up. Turn out the noise. And in the secrecy of your own being, locate the exact place you push. Not in generalities, the exact place. The bill whose numbers you rehearse. The name that tightens your chest. The project you keep moving ahead by force. Find it, and for once, do not improve it. Look at the strain and admit it. I have been trying to get. That honesty is the doorway. Then the movement is simple. First, recognize the push. Feel the muscles inside your thought trying to make a world. Second, stop the negotiation. No promises to God, no bargains with pictures, no vows to do better if only. Let the courtroom close. Third, rest in one truth. Choose it now so you will not search then. I and the Father are one. Or, God is the source of my being and the infinity of my being. Set your weight on it, the way you would set your weight on a chair, and be still. Fourth, release the need to feel something. Do not demand a sign. Do not check your temperature for holiness. Refuse the test. Fifth, listen in the stillness. Not for words necessarily, not for thunder. Listen for the hush that is sufficiency, for the lightening of your own grip. If a phrase comes, fine. If a direction rises without pressure, fine. If only quiet is there, fine. Quiet is evidence. All right, what should you expect? Not instant perfection. Not a life suddenly emptied of pictures that invite concern. Expect moments, first touches of spirit, in which the burden you thought was welded to your ribs loosens, and you know, without fireworks, I am not alone. Expect a kind of clarity that does not argue, it simply is. Expect to repeat this practice each time you notice the old machinery start up, and do not call that repetition failure. That is practice. That is the way habits dissolve under law. Now take this as your nightly treatment. Say it without strain, as consent, not command. Father, Thou art the source. Thy presence is here. I yield my will, my fear, my outlining. Let Thy will be done. Then stop. Let it be so. If more words try to pile up, return to the one truth and the listening. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10, no stopwatch, no merit badges. Just honesty and consent.
Don't forget this. Christ is a state of consciousness, fearless, non-grasping, non-hating, that knows no power outside God. In the degree that you yield tonight, that consciousness becomes yours to that degree. Not borrowed, not pretended. Yours. And by tomorrow you will walk differently. Not because you conquered the world, but because you stopped trying to get and quietly consented to the presence already here.